How did I get to this point in my life in 40 odd years of why I've been here on this earth, on this planet? And all I can say to that is, and again, some of you are slightly aware of my story, some of you aren't, that this journey of where I find myself today began back in early 2000s, really. And what I became very aware of was myself and other people around me of early 20s, that things started to bubble up from the under the surface. We all, as men, have things that have gone on for us in our childhood and early life of schooling, and we kind of just get distracted from it, and we're still trying to find out who we are. It always seems when we come out of university where life starts to get a bit more real, and can't hide behind the textbooks and going out partying and doing those things that perhaps we engage in as distractions when we've almost finished our degree. And what I found for me personally is that's what started to come up for me. Those things started to come to the surface, things aware of that perhaps I've been avoiding up until that point around family. And it was like, okay, I'll ignore it. I can still ignore it. I can still go and do something else. And very much what that took me into then was going, I know what I can do. I can change the world. A lot of men drop into that early age thing. I can change the world. I can do all this. I can fix my problems and everybody else's. And I guess that took me into education, into the realm of working with young people, particularly what they called at the time disengaged from education. And I found I was really good at working with these young people, and I found myself becoming a teacher. Never actually wanted to be a teacher, but as we know, people say these great things to us, and we feel inspired by them, and we go, "Oh yes, that's me," and I'll go and do it. And of all the subjects on the table, I actually ended up doing ICT. And I realized pretty quickly I wasn't passionate about IT. What I actually was passionate about was the young people. And I was able to kind of go on with this place of ignoring all the other stuff that was going on at the time and focus on this. And I was doing really well in the school I was working in. I was supporting the young people who seemed to be disaffected, helping them get the grades they needed to go to college. But I just didn't feel right in doing that. So I almost thought, you know what, I'm you never inevitable. I'm stalling for these young people in regards to me doing what I did. And when I spoke to the assistant head at the time, it became very obvious that these children weren't seen as children, but price tags in regards to the value of what it meant for school. And that again got me thinking about identity and how, some of these people, some of these boys and girls see themselves and how they're shaped in a certain way. And I thought, you know what, I can solve all these problems at home and work by going abroad. I just know if I pack my bags and get a job abroad, it will all go away and it's a new life. But unfortunately, you can sort of see what's happening with this, that a lot of people who have the experience of working abroad, when you pack your bags to move abroad, you don't leave your problems behind, you take them with you. And very much that became very evident very quickly when I arrived in Thailand for 2 years, of I guess where my journey started. And it was a lot of the partying and socializing and work. Again, I've muddled through all what was going on, what I left behind at home. And I guess it then ramped up even more that avoidance of what my body was trying to indicate to me and stuff, what was going on in my head. I ignored it further. When I was in China, I was in China for 4 years. I arrived as a head of ICT, a lot of responsibility there for young age there, was mid-20s. And then I thought, oh, I know what I can do. I can do more. I became a network manager, so I was in charge of all the IT curriculum for the college. Then I became a head of house. Then I became involved in pastoral care because I was really passionate about the well-being of the young people. There's various challenges that go on in China, particularly around pressure to perform academically, and how that impacts on the mental health of the students. And then from there, I thought, you know what, I'll do a master's degree as well, as if I'm not doing enough already. And I'll continue to party like a rock star. Unfortunately, you can see the pattern what men go through: avoidance, 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 do more, prove more. God doesn't see I'm better than everybody else and all the rest of it. So it wasn't surprised by 2013 that the wheels started to fall off quite dramatically. And in a sense, that took me to a point when I arrived in South Korea in September 2013, that it was inevitable that the nervous breakdown would come, that the F button would be hit and make sure everything collapsed very, very quickly. I was very fortunate to actually end up back in the UK because of what was going on for me regards my own mental health in a foreign country, not knowing anybody. But for me personally, my mother was a big part of that, coming and bringing me back. That was the easy bit, getting back, by the way. The hard bit was then when I'm here, what am I going to do? And very much when I was looking around at that point in time, I looked at the NHS, and the NHS is doing the best best it could at the time, and still now, but it's broken, unfortunately. And when I accessed support from the crisis team, it was very limited in resources. I went on the waiting list for mental health support. By the time it arrived, it was mediocre. It wasn't really helpful. And it was like, you know what? The only person who can deal with this is me. The only person who can make the difference to my life is me. Move through wherever I'm at. And that sort of inner drive, really, that I'm aware we all have, came to light more than ever. That inner knowing, that inner skills, whatever answers, what you want to call it. And that led me to become a NLP master practitioner, more for myself than others. And then that first of that journey of there's got to be a better way of working. And hence, when I broke into 2014, that's when I started in the health and wellbeing sector, working in the various employment roles, but also then journeying in the therapeutic space, building up that toolkit of working one-to-one. And fast forward 10 years, there was all the richness in that experience in 22, as well as this therapeutic toolkit that I'd built up, bringing me to a point now of my 40s where there had been challenges along the way. Challenges along the way of a difficult marriage that ended in divorce, and other situations along that. But all I would say is they have helped bring to the richness of where I landed in 2022 to go, this is what I want to do next. And coming into 22 was moving out of the employment sector, going, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. I want to go all in. This is where I'm at. This is where the passion is, and where I want to make a difference to people's lives. And by that point, I'd had various individuals come up to me, including men, saying if it wasn't for you, I'd have took my own life. If that isn't a calling to continue what I'm doing, I don't know what isn't. And very much with the fortunate nature, happened two things really in August 23. Secured initial funding for my CIC, Community Interest Company, where I deliver wellbeing initiatives within Trafford and East Manchester. But also then arrived in getting to know an individual who does something called a Reset It program based in Canada. I trained with him to become a Reset It specialist, and it added to that richness of the toolkit of there's a different way of working. And it brought all those skills together, what I had coming into this January, to work under that brand. And I was enjoying that journey, but it was all that niggling of, is this really what I want to do? Is this deeper calling here to work with men? Is that where your actual passion is? But it was coming into October this year that drive came deeper and deeper. And I thought, again, you know what? This is the time. It's the time to move into the space where I really want to be with Rewired for Men. And that's that journey that brought it into where I made the decision on my own personal professional journey to not only work with men, but men aged 30 and above. Because for me personally, that's where men at this particular age start to question things around them. They start to realize perhaps the journeys they're in and on, or the relationships they're in, or the messages get from society just don't fit. They don't belong to them. And it starts to really impact on their life and their difficulties. When they look around to access support, it isn't there. And unfortunately, what that can lead into is men, when they start to feel lost and they don't really know who they are, they start to make really difficult decisions where, from a place of being unbalanced with their emotions. And I'm sure the people here and people listening to this who are men can relate to those car crash decisions that have happened from the age 30 onwards, where it's not only had a massive impact on you as an individual, but also as people around you. And that could be financial, it could be relationship-wise. It could be lots of different things, really. And it doesn't have to be this way. It really doesn't, and there is another way. But what's really interesting in the fact is, although there's a lot of men out there who feel lost and unbalanced, that only 34% of us actually access support. And of that 34%, how many of us actually then follow through in completing that program of whatever is given to us? And I really feel that there are reasons for that. I think, first of all, when a lot of these men access the support, it's very much from a female perspective. I don't mean that disrespect to anybody out there, but it very much is. And men tend to find themselves sat in front of a female, and it can be very difficult to open up. And when men do try and open up, what happens is they find themselves being emotionally triggered by what they're saying, and that can lead to them perhaps getting agitated, so they get labelled as angry men, or they shut down, i.e., so you disengage, or men don't talk. And that's not the case at all. It really, really isn't. That's all part of the pressure that has been put on us, the stories that we internalise and take to be our own. And it's no wonder, unfortunately, there are a lot of men then obviously go on to take their own life or unlikely engage in substances. I've mentioned a few times in here, and whoever knows me, I don't talk about labels of anxiety, depression, and trauma, and this, that, and the other, because I really feel a lot of those are a collection of the physical reactions of the body reacting to the stories that are in the head. The unhelpful stories in the head. What do I mean by unhelpful stories in the head? And again, reflection of Robert being here, and Nick and Samson, whoever else is listening to this afterwards. As a man, we carry these sort of stories that resonate around my own personal experience and professional experience, and certain categories around identity, purpose, and direction. What I mean by identity, who am I? Am I a bank manager or a husband or a dad? Or am I all of that or am I none of that? You know, what is my purpose in my life? Am I actually feeling and making a worthwhile difference to anything and anybody when I wake up in the morning? Or even the direction, am I actually doing a job that I enjoy doing? I'm just doing it because my wife told me to, or my mum told me to, or society told me to. And then that builds into the other stories around, you know, being the family ones, the relationship ones, you know, being a breadwinner of the family, being the man of the house, and if I can't bring that money in, am I a real man? And, you know, real men don't cry or share their problems, or it's like, none of it's true. You know, it's what we've picked up and then internalize into our own experience, believing that's what we are. And again, these are all examples of these pressures that society puts on, and then we internalize and own them as that's what they must be. But unfortunately, as we know, it's not the case. And combined with that, the emotional suppression, what we believe we need to be as men, adds to that difficulty in making those changes. And unfortunately leads to very poor decision making and situations that occur from there. Which all highlights into, again, going back to why I do what I do, is in regards to Rewired for Men, you're rewiring the inner stories permanently. There's no need to revisit your past. It's time and cost efficient. It brings you into that space where you can reclaim that control over your lives, where you can find that emotional balance, where you can find that lasting insight and direction into where you want to be.